I'm your host, Adrienne, and this is Power Talk. And happy Veterans Day. Happy 11/11 Gateway. This is a very powerful night to be doing this particular show, so I'm just really excited. My guest tonight's name is LON, and she comes to the United States from the Netherlands, and she's a graphic artist. And she's also very, very spiritual, but she didn't start out that way. So welcome, LON.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. And before we talk about, how you got where you are today, I just want to share with the viewers that I was gifted by LON with her deck of cards, and when she holds them up, they'll be facing the right direction.
or
on the back side of the deck. So she has created an oracle deck that is based on sacred geometry, which y'all know that's the heart of my work is sacred geometry. And it's all about relationships. And it is a powerful deck of cards. And I think y'all know that I'm fascinated by cards, so this was a good fit for us. But this morning, I had a client this morning at 8 o'clock, and I was just playing around. I was waiting on Zoom for my client to show up, and I was playing with these cards because they were right here on my desk because of tonight's show. And so I pulled 3 cards, and I really thought I was pulling 3 cards for myself. Because, it's all about me connecting with my beloved partner. That's what I'm working on right now, primarily in my life. And as it turns out, the cards might be applicable for me for sure, but they were for my client. And we ended up having one of the most powerful and fun sessions I've done in a long time this morning. And it was based on these cards. So the cards that I pulled were multidimensionality, so that you get an idea of the beautiful artwork. Yeah. Originality was the second card that I pulled. And the final card that I pulled was union. And so my client session ended up being all about uniting his body and his soul in sacred marriage. So it was beautiful. And so thank you, LON. So I want to hear about you. So yeah, so you started off in the commercial world doing graphic art, right?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did art school in Holland, and I majored in graphic design and marketing.
Okay.
So there I automatically went into the advertising agencies, and I've been doing that ever since. And I still do that a little bit, less and less. I do more and more just based around about my oracle decks and my activations. That's how
did you segue into activations and these beautiful graphics?
I got somewhere along the way. I got incredibly fascinated by crop circles. Like in the 90s, at some point, I saw pictures of crop circles, and there was like an instant jolt of excitement. I felt like a child in a candy store, just looking at crop circles. The designs of them are so beautiful. They're so intricate and they're so complex. There is such a mathematical complexity underneath those designs that I don't know, I'm a nerd that way. So and so as a designer, I took those pictures and I put it in line art, and I started giving it color and just playing with it like a coloring thing. And then I noticed that it gave me a certain kind of feeling, and I started wondering, what if I use it as a language? What if I use the shapes and the colors to express something? And because I'm from Holland, and because English is not my first language, I came across so many words that I didn't know. And every time somebody would mention a word to me that I didn't know, I would say, stop, halt, what does that mean? For instance, discernment. That was one of those words that somebody mentioned, and I could immediately feel wow, the flavor of the word discernment is so beautiful. What would that look like if I would put shapes and colors to it? So I just started playing with it and then showing it to people, and it turned out that people totally got it, and they felt it and they understood what I was saying. And from there, I even took it a step further. Then I started thinking, what if I can express somebody in shapes and colors? So what if I can express your essence, like your soul, by just taking your energy in and getting to know you and seeing what you're all about, and then translating that in a different way. So I create mirrors of the soul. So most of these you see, even this one, are portraits of people. They're soul portraits.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I describe it. So every piece has a concept. It has a title. Then I describe what it is about and how it applies to our lives, and how we could use it to enrich our lives and to help us understand better about why things are showing up in our lives and how circumstances are created, or why people are showing up in our lives. And then I also explain like what the colors do, and the numerology and the symbology and the shapes. And then in the latest deck, the relationships deck, in this deck, I also explain what that concept has to do with relationships.
Yeah.
So like the cards that you drew this morning, multidimensionality, which is actually the same card that I drew this morning, and it's my card of the week right now in my social media. But so I go into like, how does multidimensionality apply to relationships? Like, how can we make that connection? Why is it important? How does it show up in relationships?
So if somebody wanted to follow you on social media, especially on Instagram, where this is your card of the week, how would they find you on Instagram?
Yeah, on Instagram, my handle is LON Art. It's just an underscore. It's not like a hyphen, but an underscore. So LON_art.
Okay, perfect.
You can find me there.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I draw a card every week, and then the whole week I talk about that subject. So the whole week I'm going to talk about multidimensionality and maybe other cards, other concepts that have to do with multidimensionality. And you can engage with me about that.
Yeah, and this card was so perfect for my client today, but also for me as well. For my client, it was about, I was guided to take him back to the point where his soul originated. And he had to go find his soul without a body, just his essence.
Yeah. Well, talk about multidimensional, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then he had to move back through the time spiral to and just play with what he found at each step as he moved through the time spiral continuum back to the present breath of now. As he began to move into more density, and what did he feel? What did he see? Who was he? Because I gave him some questions. Who are you?
Yeah.
What are you? Why
exactly.
are you?
Yeah.
And so this was so perfect for that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, but now for me, it's also very appropriate because I just last week completed my first novel. I've written a lot of nonfiction books, but
how exciting!
My first novel, and it's a romance novel about manifesting and calling into myself my beloved partner. And most of the work in that novel is done in other dimensions. And I know at this point that I have met my beloved partner in other dimensions. And in fact, and I'm not going to do any spoiler, but basically I received confirmation on that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And don't you find also that that's the time that we live in now, that more and more of us are waking up to some kind of an understanding, or even like an inherent remembrance that maybe we have been here before, or maybe we actually have been in other places, because we seem to have memories of, like myself, I've always felt very ancient. Like I've always felt like I know much more and I'm aware of much more than what they taught me and what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So
same for me. I've always been a seeker of truth. I've known since I was, 3-4 years old, that everything that I was being told wasn't 100% the truth. And I've been searching for truth. I can't tell you how many Sunday school classes I got kicked out of because I was asking questions that nobody wanted to answer.
Yeah. I actually had teachers that told me, one teacher at one point said to me, like, why can't you just take something the way it's given? Why do you always have to ask why? Yeah. And my answer at the time was like, well, if you can't explain to me why, then how am I going to believe you? I mean,
Exactly.
right?
Uh-huh. And the second card that I pulled is this originality card. It says the frequency of originality supports our capacity to be unique and original creators of unlimited possibilities in every moment. And this, I know I'm different. And I believe that what I'm here to be in the world, it's not really that I'm here to do anything. I'm here to be and anchor my original stuff, my essence. And that's all I'm responsible for. It's just that original piece that nobody else can be.
Yeah, exactly. And think about it also, like when I started thinking about the whole concept of originality, I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? Evolution would not be possible without original thoughts and original people. Because if we keep repeating the same things over and over, we keep going in the same circles and we never get out and find another way of doing things or other ways of being things. So originality is so important. And I think it's so important to remember that also, because so many of us, we spend so much time worrying about whether we fit in, right? Mm-hmm. And we try to fit in, while if you really think about it, it's actually better not to fit in. I mean, it's great to get along.
Oh, for sure.
But your unique skills and your unique qualities are needed to help this whole evolution, this whole world forward.
I spent the first 60 plus years of my life trying to hide my originality.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be, to subject myself to ridicule or whatever could happen. And, and who knows why? Probably I was, burned at the stake in other lifetimes or hung or whatever, and there was good reason for that. But now I'm owning it. And I know that that's really what I'm here to do and to offer the world is just what I have. And the same thing for you. You've done it. I mean, here it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I tried to get away from it, because I came from corporate graphic design, which was paying really well. And but I wasn't really feeling that fulfillment because corporate wasn't really my thing to do. But starting and doing something like this, I mean, the world is different now. But when I started with all this, the world wasn't that open to it. They weren't as inviting to it yet. So oftentimes I try to throw it all down and go like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go back to corporate. And for some reason, guidance or the universe or whatever you want to call that always brought something in that stopped me right in my track, and it brought me right back to creating these things. And now I've just like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. So now I'm just going for it. And the world is so different now. I mean, the world is so welcoming to all this, and they're hungry. The young people out there, I have so many young people that are so excited about what I'm doing, and
they're looking for a hand up to lift them up to a little bit higher level of consciousness so that they can start to understand, because they don't fully understand why they're here. And the kids today are here to change this world.
Yeah. And a lot of them actually come in with extra psychic or extra sensory perceptions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And still our paradigms and our educational system doesn't really address it. It doesn't really talk about it. So a lot of them, the same as what you and I went through, a lot of them still feel like what do I do with that? And then once they come in contact with somebody like you and somebody like me, or with the work that I'm doing, they feel like, oh, this resonates, like somebody that gives us context, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and many times I hear them say, I knew it. I knew there had to be. I knew it.
Yeah.
And I love it, when that happens.
Yeah.
So the third card, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add that I have many young people now that are doing my cards on a daily basis. And most of them say that they didn't grow up with Oracle decks at all. They had no idea what it was about. And my deck is the first one that they started with, and they love it. So it's so cool to hear that.
And I think one thing that there has been in the past, and I think certainly it comes from a lot of religious paradigms, where the oracle decks have been judged to be not healthy. I'm just going to use that as a term for it. But what people don't understand is that what the oracle deck does is it just lets us tap into our subconscious. I mean, it's not like we're going out and talking to something outside ourselves. This is an inside job. And when you pull the cards, your higher self, your subconscious mind, knows the cards that you need to look at to give you a piece of information that you wouldn't have gotten to otherwise.
Yeah. And I see my cards also as like, they're just little suggestions. They're little insights. They're just a little bit of feedback. Just like what you would expect from a trusted friend, where you get honest feedback to each other and you are supportive to each other. That's what these cards do. They're not predicting anything. They're just giving you maybe a new perspective or a different perspective to look at something. And once you can change the way you think about something, sometimes then things open up. Because oftentimes it's not our circumstances that need to change for us to feel happier or more fulfilled. It's the way we think about things.
Right.
It's our state of mind that needs to change. And that's what my cards
internal vibration.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's also what the art on the cards does. Because when you look at this art, what it does is it sets off a vibration inside you that raises you to another level.
Yeah, well, because it's based on sacred geometry, and because sacred geometry is something that we are all built upon. We are all built on the grids on the mathematical rhymes and reasons that are behind sacred geometry. Like sacred geometry refers to all the repetitions that we see in nature, and we see it from flowers to seashells to the way the waves break, to like star formations, to like the way our DNA and our molecules are working with each other. It's all the same thing. And because the geometry, the designs are based on that kind of rules, we intuitively feel drawn to it, because we feel like, oh, I recognize that. That feels good. It's harmonizing. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. And and everything that's alive is based on the Fibonacci sequence of numbers. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and
which makes the spiral. For those of us that are not familiar with it, the Fibonacci circle is like a sequence of numbers. It's a mathematical formula that when you keep repeating it, it's like the spiral shape that we see everywhere in nature. Like think about seashells or cauliflowers, the way cauliflowers kind of have that swirl, or
the seeds inside a sunflower.
Yep. Yeah. Or tornadoes. Like all of it. So it's
and the leaves on plant stems are done in that same thing. So it is how we are created, and these numbers, not only about creation, but everything in nature resonates at some octave with the numbers of sacred geometry and the shapes of sacred geometry. So it's beautiful. And I love on the back of your deck is the flower of life.
Yes.
And that again is a graphic representation of how things were created. In the beginning was the Word. And then there was two. And then they combined, and the circles intersect with the circles, and it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's our connection to the whole. And that's funny too, because we see such an uprising of the symbol of the sacred geometry around us now, right? We see it in jewelry, and we see it in art pieces, and we see a lot of people wearing it in tattoos on their body. Yep. And over the last 5 months or so, I've been asking people, like whenever I see somebody wear something like that, I ask them, like, so what does that mean to you? Why are you wearing it? And I would say in general, the answer that I get back is like, it makes them feel that they belong to something. It makes them feel that they belong to something larger. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And something fun to mention is that on both of my decks, so both the relationship deck and the activations deck, they are the same size, size. The cards are the same size. and both of them have the backside is on both is like this.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I did that on purpose because that way you can use both decks together. You can mix them up if you want to, or you can do a reading where you do a few cards from one deck and then you do a few cards from the other deck, and you won't know because it blends together.
And I would offer that the relationship deck does activations. I mean, I felt it today, and my client felt it as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I call all of my images, I call them activations because they activate something inside of us. Just like you said, it activates something that is beyond our conscious mind. On the subconscious level, it starts working with us. It makes like new energetic connections within ourselves.
Gotcha. So you said you pull a card a week and you post it on Instagram. Can you pull a card for our audience tonight that expresses the essence of who we are?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Now, I'll do it from the relationship deck also.
Okay.
So I'll give it a little, I usually give it a knock. Is that what you do?
No, I just shuffle them. Usually I shuffle them 5 times.
Oh, interesting.
And then I cut it 3 times, and then I restack them differently, and then I take the top card.
Wow, it's so funny how we all do that, right? Like in my video series that I'm making right now about how to work with these decks, that's exactly what I'm saying also. Like, you can do this however you want, and we all have a different way of doing it. I mean, you can put it in front of you and just shovel it. It doesn't matter. I just usually go like this, and I just know. Sometimes one comes flying out.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just like, I know that this is where I need to stop. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
There it is.
Perfect.
Woo! Joy.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Wow. So everybody, look at this image and invite your higher self to work with the energetic fields and the guides to activate joy inside you and feel what happens.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting, again, it's such a fun concept because, and I think that's why it showed up for me in all these colors, because joy is really something that affects our whole being, right? So it affects all of our chakras, from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra. Like, if everything is aligned, then our joy is complete. Then it's like, then everything radiates out in joy, and you can feel that. You can feel that in somebody that is in complete joy. Right, you can see that. You can feel it. Right, so that's why it's all the colors of every chakra.
Beautiful. So tell us about joy.
Well, for me, joy was about. So what I do is, like, this one I intentionally made because I wanted to make something that activates joy. And when I started thinking about it, like, what is joy? I mean, joy is that it's something that comes from really deep within us. And it's not from our minds. It's not something that you can think yourself in. I mean, you can think happy thoughts and then you can kind of feel happy. But joy for me is something that kind of bursts out of something very deep inside, right? It's almost like when that connection to that feeling of belonging, or that connection to like a power, like that's the joy that bursts out. So for me, it was like, it had to kind of have that bursting feeling, like it needed to come out. It has to represent every level, from the yellows to the reds to the blues to the purples to the greens. Like, every level has to be in there. And the way it represents it in relationships, of course, is that I think most of us, we want a partner, right? Most of us, we choose to find a romantic partner to have the experience of being in relationship with, and to have the experience of knowing about ourselves through the reflection of somebody else. Right. And the joy that brings is, I mean, think about it. If you really truly feel connected to somebody, it's almost that joy goes further than just that person. When you are in love, for instance, doesn't it feel like the whole universe is working with you? Like, right? The sky is bluer, and the birds all of a sudden sing more cheerful, and things just go your way. So it's interesting that once we hit that resonance and that vibration of joy, it just impacts us on such a deep level and such a complete level that it just comes bursting out of us. Oops.
Yeah. and the same thing goes for when we're around for example, when we're around someone who's in love,
Yeah.
you feel that joy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and it tends to make everybody around that person. It's
Yeah.
viral. It's contagious.
It's contagious. It's very contagious. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I love this one. I have to say this was not an easy one for me to make, and I think part of it when I made this was in a time where I don't know, maybe I wasn't really that joyful. I really had to sit with that concept and figure out, like, so where would that come from? Like, when are you in joy, and how do you stimulate it, and where do you find it when you're not?
Right. And and what I think is that the only place you can find it is inside you.
Yes.
It's not something that you can concoct.
No, like I said, I was starting to look at the difference between joy and happiness, and I feel like that there is a difference. To me, it feels there is a difference on how deep it goes. Like, when somebody brings you something, I don't know, when somebody invites you to like a cool concert or something, then you can feel happy, but joy can just come from out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, joy is often connected to something that is connected to a deeper sense of living. I think
it's an intangible connection, I think,
right?
And it also is it's a more long lasting thing. Happiness to me is very fleeting. It's it's gone, but joy is there. We get out of touch with it, and I think what happens is we get out of vibration with it. And
I agree with that.
We can pull ourselves back into that joy vibration, then we recover it. It never really is gone.
Which kind of goes back to aligning all the chakras, right? Like all the energy centers that we have alongside our spine. Like if they are all open and they all vibrate like openly and everything is flowing, then I don't think you can be anything but blissful and joyful.
Right. Exactly.
Right? So when one of those is kind of shut off for whatever reason that is, that can be even in the mental parts or in the connection parts, or it can be in your heart because something is hurting, or it can be because you're not feeling safe, so more in the lower parts. Is any of them is off, then the joy level goes down as well.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, this is an amazing deck of cards. How can our viewers get their hands on their own decks?
Yeah, you can. There's several ways that you can do this. You can do it through the link in my bio on Instagram. You can go to my website, which is LON-art.com, or you can look me up on Amazon. I think if you Google, or not Google, if you Amazon, like Sacred Geometry Activations or Relationship Oracle, I will come up.
Or just LON.
Yeah. You know what? I haven't tried that one. I should try it if that comes up. I'm sure it does, actually.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
I bet it does, yeah.
Yeah. Or you can get it at Beyond Word Publishing, which is my publisher.
Fantastic. Well, what's next for you?
Right now, I am working on a video series about how to work with the deck. I'm working on an ebook about chakras, which is going to have lots and lots of images, very colorful, very all made for beginners, also for people that maybe are not that familiar with it. I'm working on coasters. I'm going to come out with coasters on Amazon. With the first set is going to be 6 coasters, beautifully glossy, vibrant, high vibrational coasters that you can put on your dining table. And I'm going to have a part on my website that is going to suggest all kinds of interesting dinner conversation talk around the coasters.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's fantastic.
And then the other thing that I'm doing is I am starting an online community. It's going to be called Soul Connect. And it's a membership-based community where I am going to invite people. We're going to get together twice a month. There's going to be all kinds of fun stuff to talk about. I'm going to have courses. I'm going to have topics. I'm going to have hot seats. And so I'm busy.
So do you have like a newsletter where people can go to LON Art?
Yes, if you go to my website, again, that is LON-art.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, and then you get like the card of the week in your inbox every week, and you can sign up for a 15-minute free reading with me so that you can get a taste of what that's like. So there's tons of ways to get in touch with me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking
You're
the
so
time
welcome.
to join us tonight. Your work is beautiful and powerful. I love it.
Thank you.
And I look forward to hearing more from you.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. This was wonderful.
You're very welcome. So viewers, next week my guest is going to be Alexis Brink, and we're going to be learning about Jin Shin, which is a healing modality that is brand new to me, and it's quite fascinating. So I look forward to sharing that with you next week. And until then, remember, people who take responsibility for their lives create the reality they desire. I love you all. Again, happy Veterans Day. Happy 11/11 Gateway. Much love. Ciao.